So I wanted to share an insight that I had a couple days ago. I was listening to a podcast that a friend of mine sent me, and they were talking about overcoming your limiting beliefs. And in that video, this is funny. I am actually blanking completely on what he talked about. And I swear this is because of the ascension process. I get more blanks more often, especially when it's a lot of people's content like this. It's because I have a higher truth. So I wanted to share what he had said. I know he called it the decision process, I believe, but I honestly cannot remember what he was saying about the limiting beliefs, but I know that he was talking about deciding, not to align with it and coming up with, example scenarios where that isn't the case. But while I was listening to this, I had the insight about what I had learned about in college when I was taking epistemology, which is the study of knowledge, which is a philosophy class. It was really fun because it was a 400 level philosophy class, and I was able to take it without taking any other philosophy, which I think it was the only non philosophy major in that class, or at least the only one who had not taken philosophy 101. But anyways, it was really interesting experience going to that class and not have any other philosophy knowledge before that. But the thing that stuck with me the most out of that class was a paper that we read by somebody. And so this is not a universal idea. This was someone's theory. But it was called I don't know if it was just called the theory of it wasn't even called frameworks. It was oh man, I can't even think what it's called right now. But there is a word for it, for people having different mental frameworks, and that is shaping your you having a different truth that exists for you. I want to say reflex. It's something like reflexivity. That's not the word though. But anyways, the core of it is that we have a mental framework which shapes all of the beliefs that we have, and that our beliefs shape the way that we view the world, which really aligned with my thinking and my personal experiences with the world. So when we think about a mental framework, because I'm pretty sure that more people would agree that we have a mental framework. It makes sense that is how our brains work. We have these core beliefs, and these core beliefs are like the blocks on the bottom of a tower. You cannot hold up any of the other blocks without these. I think my professor called them like the seat, or the legs, I think, like the legs of a chair. But also, they're like, the framework itself is like a puzzle. So when you have a puzzle, right, you have to have the pieces. There is the functionality of pieces fitting together, right? So they have to actually be made to fit together. But normally a puzzle has a picture, right? And the picture will connect. So if you had a line, the line is going to connect through where the piece connects, right? And so this popped into my head while I was listening to this podcast, that this is why I believe we struggle so much overcoming our limiting beliefs. So let's think about the ways that people will talk about, overcoming limiting beliefs. we have, well, actually, okay, I'm gonna stop and go back. What are limiting beliefs? So you probably can think of examples, right? Limiting beliefs are thinking like I'm worthless, I'm lazy, I never do enough, I am not worth that much money, no one would ever love me. Those type of thoughts. But where did these thoughts come from? So these thoughts come from an accumulation of experiences sometimes, but they're also really what they are is programs. So a lot of the time when we talk about programs, we think about programs that are instilled upon us by society. But you can also create programs yourself. So if we think about a program like in a computer, a program runs and we'll have background programs, right, that are always running on our computers. Like the operating system is essentially a program. I could be wrong, but I think it's still just a program. So, yes, programs run on it. But anyways, my point is that it's running. And so that's sort of what these are. They're always running in the background. And yeah, so programs will sometimes have pop-ups, right? A pop-up window. That's essentially what happens when we have a limiting belief come up. It's when the pop-up window is coming up on the program, and then we are reminded that this program is running. And so, okay, that's another insight that just came in. So part of the issue is that when we're trying to overcome these limiting beliefs, we are closing the pop-up window, but we're not addressing the fact that this program is running and actually addressing the whole window, the whole program. And we may even close it for a while, but if the system reboots, right, and it's an automatic program, it's going to start again. So we have to actually uninstall the program. But if we think of our framework as like an operating system, if this program comes pre-installed with the operating system, right? Essentially, you might not be able to uninstall this program without damaging your operating system. Okay, this is a good analogy for it. Okay, so essentially the problem is, like a puzzle, all of the pieces are connected to other pieces, right? You can't just pull out a puzzle piece because the puzzle is not going to complete that way. And or you, as I'll talk about in a minute, if we are replacing this limiting belief with a new belief, we're changing the picture. The picture is not going to fit with the rest of the puzzle. And or if we have the chair and we replace the arm of the chair, that's not going to fit with the legs. So they don't go together. We have to address the entirety of what's going on in our framework. So now, okay, I feel like I'm a little rambling, I could say this a little bit clearer, but as I said in the previous video, I'm trying to free flow this more, so just bear with me. And it is good because I am saying new information that wouldn't have come out if I had done this structured. So like I came up with a very good analogy about the operating system that I would not have thought of otherwise. Okay, so some of the things that people suggest, and I'm looking at pushfar.com, okay? So identify a limiting belief that you have. All right, so let's just use an example of I am useless, okay? So recognize that it's just a belief. So recognizing that believing that you're worthless does not actually mean that you are worthless. Okay? Now, challenge your belief. So, when you have this, yeah, they are talking about facts, okay? People will say, think of an example when you weren't worthless, right? So you have to think about what worth means to you, which again is going back to the framework, because people's description of what the definition of what they consider to be worth is changes by person to person. And that is related to your upbringing and the society, but also yourself and your own individual thoughts as well. So, just to make this really simple, for an example, let's say you view helping, any living thing to be of worth, right? So you can think of an example of when you were out and you saw a kitten in a box for adoption and they were out in the rain and you left an umbrella, okay? So you can use that as an example that you are of worth, because you have at least one example that is saying that you are of worth. However, the problem with this is that if you can think of a positive to support your new claim that you are of worth, you probably also have an example that you can pull out to prove that you are worthless. Now, when this maybe wasn't the best example, because in this case, you're either of worth or you're not of worth, right? I mean, you can be, say, mediocre, but if you are proving to yourself that you are of worth at least once in your life, you can kind of dispute saying worthless, because you're saying you have absolutely no worth when you say worthless, right? But if you are saying I'm lazy, it doesn't matter if one day you do a whole bunch of productive things. You can still say that you're a lazy person if you have enough things in your brain telling yourself all these instances that you've been lazy. So coming up with a example of when you were not lazy does not really disprove that you are lazy, at least some of the time. And also, I don't know the real science behind this, but I've heard multiple times that our brains hold on more to negative memories than positive ones. So it's going to be easier in our brain to think of all of the examples that prove that limiting belief over the ones that disprove that limiting belief. So even if we can think of that one moment that proves our new belief that we're trying to replace with the old one of I am of worth or I am productive, our brain is going to counteract that when we're trying to, replace that belief of, but remember when you did this thing, and then you're having this fight with yourself. And what's going to win? Usually the old belief, because that is the one that already fits in the puzzle. Because that's, and also because that's what feels comfortable. Change can be difficult and sometimes scary. And when it comes to this, as I'm trying to paint the picture, it is a bigger change than we realize, because you do have to change the entire puzzle. So on here it says recognize the potentially damaging consequences. Okay, so you're looking forward into the future and thinking, if I hold on to this limiting belief, it's going to stop me from doing this, or it's going to cause me to do this in the future, which is okay. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that, to look into the future. But you are disconnecting from the present. And the present is the most important thing, right? And also, if you're thinking, I need to change this thought because otherwise this is going to happen in the future, you're kind of creating this situation where you can put it off. Because if the problem is in the future, the solution can also be in the future. So, it helps more if you connect with the present and how, you will feel better and have a better life experience now in this moment than thinking about the future. Okay, so adopt the new belief. Okay, so most of the time when you do that, you have that, people recommend having that like separate affirmation, or sometimes they say do it as a mantra in the day. So you'd have that turning I am worthless to I am worthy. I am lazy to I am productive. But as I've already said, the reason why that doesn't hold. And then also too, you have to, if you're going to flip it, you have to get it into your head. Because like I'm saying, when you have a program, if you have a pop-up window, it's going to keep popping up over and over and over again. What are you going to pay attention to more? The pop-up window that's opening up all of the time, or the pretty background on your computer that you look at once when you turn your computer on? You're going to pay more attention to the pop-up window. So a good thing that you can do with this, which is the thing that I have wanted to do for a while and have not actually done it, is it does not have to be a bracelet, but a lot of times people do bracelets. They'll do that if they have like something triggering them. Right? They're snap the bracelet and then they're like calmed down. But you can do that for whenever you have like a limiting belief come up, to remind yourself to counteract that with a positive affirmation that counteracts that energy. However, like I'm saying, if the puzzle piece doesn't fit into the puzzle, you might still keep putting it in, but it's probably not going to stay there. It's kind of like our little ego self, like another version of our ego that's in the back that we're not paying attention to, sneakily switches the puzzle pieces when we aren't looking, essentially. So if we look at another website, we have group60.com. Okay, so saying, identify your self-limiting beliefs, and that's fine. I think that website had said, think of a limiting belief. But as I said, like, we have these core beliefs. We have these chair legs. So we have layers to our beliefs. And one of the problem is, if we are latching onto a belief and there's a belief under that belief, what we need to do is go to the belief under that belief. Because even if we are able to shift the belief that is above that belief, if we hold on to the belief below that, we're more likely to go back to the original belief. So, for example, what I recently realized and hadn't really put together is that my belief with money. So I know that I've had the limiting belief of money that I've been holding on to is that I need to work for money. Most of the time, work hard for money. Okay? And I've gotten mostly the place of recognizing, no, that's not necessarily the case, and that's not how the universe is designed, and I deserve more than that, okay? But that still comes up. And let me say, I've gotten to the place where I can have money. I have enough money. But it's almost like I cannot make an abundance of money, because I feel like I cannot have that because I'm not doing enough work and creating enough value in the world, because I've started to have that come up as a new belief of like the value and that I'm not creating enough value. But anyways, I realized that the reason that I'm holding on to this is because there's a belief under this, which comes down to the thing that I am not creating enough value. And this used to be that I was not of value but because I worked enough on, instilling in myself that we are all inherently valuable because we are all the same. We are all having the same similar experience. We all, are going to the same place eventually and whatever. That, there's nothing that we have to do in life. But at the same time, I feel that, I should have a mission. I should be working on that mission. And because I feel that, and I feel that that is because of putting value into the world and helping others, that when I'm not doing that, I am not doing something that I should be doing. And because I'm not doing that, then I don't deserve the money. So I'm not really going to be able to get rid of that belief that I need to work hard for money, as long as I hold on to that belief that I should be doing things, that I need to be creating more value, and that I need and should. Should is a better word than need, but neither are good, and I'm supposed to be working through this. But that I need to do that. I don't know how to say it without using these words. But the belief that that is a thing that I should be doing, okay? As long as I'm holding on to that, then I'm going to be blocking true abundance of money. But then, like I said in that previous video, feeling that I have to do that and creating from that energy of having to do that and having that outcome of wanting to create money because I want that money because I feel like I am not getting that money, is creating that spiral of creating with a masculine energy, wanting an outcome, focusing on the outcome, and then I'm not following the mission because the mission is about the feminine, is about creating from that place. So I'm not doing that. I'm not focusing on the right things. I'm focusing on all of that masculine and perpetuating that the limiting belief is real because I'm believing that I have to do all this stuff or else I will not get money. So that also goes back to my other point that I wanted to make, is that there's a desperation. Well, okay. That was what I was thinking. I almost just made this video about money, but I really thought that it was more helpful to talk about limiting beliefs in general. So I think that sometimes we do have a desperation when it comes to limiting beliefs in general, especially if we're thinking about things that might happen in the future. But when it comes to money, that is where we're always desperate, right? That's why we want money, because we're desperate to have it because we think of all these things that's going to happen if we don't get it. And, when you're giving into fear, you're closing off the energy and you're creating just more and more limiting beliefs around that. So, what we need to do is go through and figure out, our core beliefs about the world, about ourselves and life, and see which of those do not align with with other beliefs and the way that we want to see the world. So what I'd recommend is to sit down and think about your core beliefs, and then go off and kind of create a stairs of these beliefs. And you may not see exactly how they all connect, because it's kind of hard to come up with every single belief that you have, right? But I would start with that. And then if they don't start going into any limiting beliefs, then I would take another paper and just start writing down, literally just write down all of the thoughts and beliefs that pop into your head, specifically the ones that are limiting. And then try to make connections between which beliefs kind of support each other and go together. And then, you can sort of figure out which one would be the one that's underneath that. So my example of having to create and then, not getting money unless you're creating. You can see how it has to be the one underneath the other, right? So let's just see if there's any other insights I have based on what this website lists out as, things that you can do. Okay, yeah, it says identify the source of your self-limiting belief. Oh, yes, okay, and then that reminded me, I was going to talk about the physical body. So, okay, so programs. Because I meant to talk about this when I was talking about what these are. Okay, so programs, so these limiting beliefs can come in from our upbringing. We can be taught these by our parents, right? If our parent is constantly telling us that we're worthless, specifically when we are under the age of 7, then we are going to believe that. That will be in our core. But we can also get them from just society and watching like movies and things like that. An example of that would be that you need money. Yeah, that would be a societal programming. You can get obviously it from your parents as well, and most of us do. But even if your parents are really rich and everything, you're still going to have this belief that you need to have some money because it is so prevalent in just society, at least in, the U.S. Western society. But also, you can have things stored in your physical body because, we carry the same DNA as like our ancestors. And so some of this programming, so we don't realize, is that everything is connected to our actual physical body. So we are energy, we're all in the energy, but our physical body is also connected to that energy field and vice versa. So the programs are not really physical, but they are stored and felt within our physical body. So we have to feel these as well, which is, I forget the example that I was going to use of it, but I feel like maybe it was just, I was going to say when you are told to just flip the feeling right away, into this positive affirmation, that we're ignoring it. I think that's what it was that I originally was going to say. You are essentially avoiding it and saying, yeah, okay. So we have parts to ourselves, right? We have like different versions of our ego. And this is a thing that's often been brought up with like inner child work, right? If your child self comes to you and has this thing, which probably is where the limiting belief is coming from, to be honest, because most of these do come from what's instilled to us as children. Because, like I said, you can build programs over time because of continual experience, but most of our things come back to what came into our psyche when we were children. So if our child self comes to us and says, I have this belief, I am feeling this way, because these limiting beliefs are limiting because they bring up feelings in us, usually fear, possibly sorrow or anger, but really those are just segments of fear because everything comes down to fear or love. So when they come to us and we say, no, believe this, we're not healing that child's self. We're not acknowledging that child's self. And so we don't need to do this every time. You can flip these into positive affirmations, and we really should, because the whole point is we're trying to flip these into positive new beliefs. But I think that before we do that, we should feel these in our body. So, like I said, come up with your list of these beliefs, right? And try to go down to whatever the lowest level is that you can that has other beliefs coming up off of it. Because if you deal with that one, then you maybe don't even need to deal with the others. They might just go away on their own. Because our framework, I really didn't explain this very well because now I'm like, oh, I should have explained this earlier. But the framework, the theory on that is that when you have a new belief come in, I mean, I did explain this because I was explaining with the puzzle, but the actual theory of the framework is that when you have something new come in that is a belief, that would be a truth to your reality, you have to see if the piece will fit, and if it doesn't, you get rid of it. Or else you have to recreate the entire framework, which is why I'm saying the puzzle, you'd have to change the picture to match the new piece. So, if you change the underlying belief, then you're going to change the other ones because you're changing the entire picture. So, oh man, okay, I'm kind of floating right now. Forget where I was going with it, and then my computer screen started flickering. All right. But, yeah, okay, so, okay, I remembered where I was going with it. So, go to that underneath belief and sit with it. Meditate. Possibly even go into a moment. The first moment, if you can think of, where this belief came from. Relive that moment. Feel everything that comes up in your body. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to scream, allow yourself to scream in a pillow if you need to. But let that emotion out and really truly feel it, because that's allowing you to release it out of your body. You can also then pull out all of the feelings and attachment that you have to that memory, to those feelings, and to that belief. Then you can come up with a alternative belief based on that, and then work yourself up if needed, or to other, beliefs as needed. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So that's really all the methods that they have on there. So I would say that is my advice. And I can't say with certainty that this works because I have not actually done this exact process, but I have done similar to this, but I have not gone to that core, belief underneath it. I've worked on a little bit, but I have not, sat down with my energy and felt the experience to release it. So that's what I would say is the best, though, because I have done that experience in the past where I have felt my past experience to release trauma that is held within my body, and I feel a lot different after doing that, as well as activations with my mentor. So let me know, in the comments if you try this and if it works. And I'm going to do it as well to try and get over this masculine energy and this need to, be of value and kind of prove myself to myself.